So as any large business, AB InBev puts a lot of emphasis on hiring for cultural fit, and most of their hires come from trainee programs, it's very important you understand that your time is a lot less valuable than their time. And to give an example here, as I earlier mentioned during the video interview, if you're lucky, you're going to have a real person on the other end, but more often than not, there will be an automated video interview that will ask you to record your questions. So it's very important that you understand this, the formalities when proceeding with such an interview. Also, another method that they use to ensure that they only hire the right people for them is to structure their hiring process into as many as 7 steps. And for each of these steps, they will test you for something. For example, during the personality profiling, there will be that personality screening interview that is quite important. And here probably the main thing you may not know is this: the personality profiling tools are almost never used as a disqualifier for somebody. They are just used to understand your personality better. Now, if you want some examples of personality profiling tools, here are 2 of them with the 2 most common types of personality profiling tools. First is the Myers-Briggs, and the second one is based on the Big 5. Now, there's also likely going to be some game-based assessment tool, and for this, here is an example of such a game. It's a free registration, and again, I'm not saying that they will use these tests, but these tests will give you a great idea of what's involved here and what do they mean by testing your cognitive abilities. And here are 2 more examples of situational judgment and logical reasoning tests. Now, during the ABI assessment, you may be asked to prepare a presentation, which will most likely be a commercial presentation. For instance, how would you market a fictive brand with a given amount of money in a specific market? And here are some actual examples of specific questions during the interview. And maybe a final idea here, during the final rounds of your interviews, I believe it would be a highly efficient strategy to also prepare a few stories about, let's say, your greatest accomplishments, of how you see your best career path, or even your greatest failure. So anyway, the idea would be to prepare these stories as the main highlights of your career or in your life if you don't already have a career. But and the reason why I'm saying these are very important, because they will help you to more easily connect the dots with the behavioral question that you're likely going to be asked during the panel interview, for instance, than if you will have to spend all those extra brain cycles to remember all those memories, and then spend a lot amount of time to just simply remember the facts, when you could spend that very important time on actually phrasing your response into a more narrative format. So also interesting to know here is one way that you could phrase your answers is using the STAR method. That is to first present the situation that you're describing, then the tasks that you're required to perform, and this could go hand in hand in some cases. Then you should explain the actions that you took, and finally the resolve of that situation. But again, the main thing here is to prepare some stories in a very narrative format. Even if you spend 1 hour writing only for one story, it will greatly help you to better get over the behavioral questioning part of your interview. And by the way, don't forget to also prepare some questions that you could ask AB InBev maybe as a closing note, or even if they might as well ask you if you have any questions for them. And one method here is to use the 4 C's method, into which I'll give you here 4 areas to think of where the more interesting questions could arise. Now, it usually takes around 1 month, but this could vary according to your location. So it's usually 1 week until you hear back from after you submit your initial online application. They use a software that's called montage interviewing software. Well, it usually takes 1 year, that is until the next season, right? Well, definitely not on their website, but I believe that Glassdoor would be a great point to start.